In our last video, we went over Chromatic Orb and how it might have become the most powerful spell in the new edition of D&D. Lucky for us, it's not the only spell to undergo some amazing changes. Today, we're diving into the spell that could give Chromatic Orb a run for its money, the new 2024 edition of Conjure Minor Elementals. What was once a powerful summoning spell beloved by players and power gamers alike has become completely revamped, turning you into an elemental wrecking ball. So grab your spellbook, ready your mind, your steel, and why not hit that like button while you're at it as I take you through the 2024 edition of Conjure Minor Elementals. Back in the day, Conjure Minor Elementals was about popping out a bunch of different elemental spirits like the D&D equivalent of Pokemon.
Alright, that's all I got for you today.
You'd summon them, they'd fight for you, and honestly, it was fine. In fact, it was better than fine. It was pretty damn good. It turned every battle into a numbers game, and like any power gamer could tell you, it was all about exploiting the action economy. In 2014, you summoned elementals, be it dust mephits, magma mephits, or anything of the sort, that rolled their own initiative and fought alongside you in battle. And just to clarify for the non-power gamers among us, that meant that you took your turn along with several others, being all of the elementals you summoned. Power gamers loved this spell because it gave you an entire squad of fighters for the low cost of one single spell slot. Each elemental acted on its own, meaning you not only flood the battlefield with attacks, but also hit points. Not to mention, each of the elementals you summoned came with their own kit full of unique abilities as well. And alongside that, if you upcast the spell, you can double or triple the amount of elementals you summon, creating a small army. Due to how the spell functioned, it allowed a single clever player to completely throw the balance out of whack for any single combat encounter. It was an absolute nightmare for action economy, turning even the most straightforward of encounters into a tactical war zone and bogged the game down with a flurry of tiny elemental attacks. And even though it might have been fun, let's be honest, it was borderline broken and bad for the game. But those days are gone. Conjure Minor Elementals has evolved, and while it's no longer about summoning an army, it's far more streamlined and just as deadly. Now, instead of throwing out minions, you yourself become an absolute whirlwind of elemental damage. You conjure spirits from the elemental plane that fit around you in a 15-foot radius. Until the spell ends, any creature you hit with an attack within that 15-foot radius takes an additional 2d8 of the elemental type's damage. Okay, let's break this down because this kind of sounds like Spirit Shroud. And if you're a fan of this channel, you know I've got a really strange relationship with that spell. You cast Conjure Minor Elementals, and instantly you're surrounded with elemental spirits. These spirits aren't doing their own thing anymore, they're there to empower you and everything you do. Whether you're swinging a sword, slinging spells, or throwing a frying pan at a goblin because you're angry that the chef feat is still useless, you deal an extra 2d8 damage every single attack. But let's get into the crunchy numbers, because who doesn't love a bit of theory crafting, right? Conjure Minor Elementals is only available to druids and wizards and deals an extra 2d8 damage per attack. That might not sound crazy at first, but let's consider all of the possibilities. Possibility 1, a druid's wild shape with multi-attack. That's 2d8 per attack, totaling 4d8 per round, averaging an extra 18 damage on every single turn. And that's 18 damage on top of their usual damage. But remember, Conjure Minor Elementals isn't just limited to melee, it works on ranged attacks within that 15-foot radius. For the wizards out there, each spell attack also benefits from the same 2d8 bonus. Thinking about a spell like Scorching Ray that has 3 attacks at its base level, it deals 2d8 extra damage for each of those rays, totaling 6d8 or an average of 27 damage for that entire round, assuming you hit. Again, that is only the extra damage. That alone is absolutely crazy, but let's not forget that you could upcast the spells. And when I say spells, I mean both Conjure Minor Elementals and Scorching Ray. For every spell level above 4th, you get to add an extra 2d8 damage per hit. So at 5th level, you're sending out an extra 4d8 per hit, taking that base level Scorching Ray from 27 extra average damage to a whopping 53 extra damage. If we go even further to 6th level, that's 68 per hit, and then it just keeps going from there. But what happens if you happen to have a fighter that may or may not have a Ring of Spell Storing? Well, as my good buddy Jake from J&J Tabletop talked about in a recent video, fighters at level 5 that dual wield have 4 base attacks. Suddenly, your frontline fighter is now swinging their sword for an extra 2d8 on every single attack. 2d8 times 4 times a round, totaling 8d8 damage, averaging 36 damage per round. At level 5. Obviously you don't get this spell at level 5, I'm just exemplifying how much damage it can do. But that's also not even including upcasting or a higher level fighter. The max level a Ring of Spell Storing can store is a 5th level spell slot. If a fighter uses this, they get 4d8 per attack. With 4 attacks, that is 16d8 or 72 average damage. But by the time you get access to this spell, you'll likely be near 11th level, meaning that that fighter who's dual wielding now gets 5 attacks, and that kicks the damage up from 16d8 to 20d8, or an average of 90 damage per round. And I'm kind of even scared to say this, but Action Surge? Now that very well may be an exaggerated and hyperbolic statement, but it is technically possible, and after doing this video or writing the script for it, I will never again give a party with a fighter a Ring of Spell Storing. In terms of scaling, Conjure Minor Elementals is arguably one of the best scaling spells I have ever seen in D&D. And just because of how confusing it can be, I made this handy dandy chart. The extra damage column depicts the base damage of the spell, and then we have columns for a druid in wild shape, with 2 multi-attacks, a wizard Scorching Ray, or a fighter with 4 attacks. And as you can see based on this chart, that's a lot of damage. And keep in mind that the damage on the chart is purely the extra damage, not even including the base damage of the normal attacks. But I think by now you probably get the point, it does a lot of damage. Now, it's worth mentioning the spell damage types. While fire, lightning, cold, and thunder damage are fun, they aren't exactly rare. You might be thinking that this spell might be useless against more powerful creatures who have resistances or immunities, but there's something else that I have yet to mention. You don't have to choose one damage type for this spell. You can choose the type of damage for every individual attack. If the target turns out to be resistant to one type of damage, you can just switch it up mid-attack. So if your enemy is resistant to fire, no problem, just switch it up to cold or lightning and boom, full damage again. It's this kind of versatility that makes the new version of Conjure Minor Elementals so damn versatile. You'll never be stuck with one single type of damage, and along with its incredible scaling potential, it really does make it ideal for any combat encounter. And if we want to take it another step forward, let's not forget that the 15-foot radius around you also is difficult terrain. So not only are you dishing out big damage, but anyone who decides to get near you has to slog through difficult terrain, allowing you to kite and easily move into more advantageous positions. It doesn't just deal a lot of extra damage, but it also controls the battlefield as well. It's really rare to find a spell that scales this well across all different levels of play, but across all of the scaling and the benefits it provides, Conjure Minor Elementals is a serious contender for one of the most powerful and versatile spells in the new edition of D&D. The new Conjure Minor Elementals takes you from being the middle manager of low-level elemental minions to being the embodiment of elemental destruction. But what do you think? Did Conjure Minor Elementals come out ahead in the 2024 rules update, or do you prefer the old summoning version? Let me know in the comments below. And hey, if you're looking for more ways to enjoy the game, hit that like button and why not subscribe for more epic spell breakdowns, combos, and maybe a few DM survival tips to deal with players who might watch these videos. Thank you very much for watching, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.